Hi and welcome to Ryvis Rambles, where I talk about whatever the f I want. And in today's video, in honor of Pride Month, I want to talk about asexuality. I'm wearing the asexual colors today. Ooh. First of all, I'm going to focus on my experience. I won't be able to explain the entirety of asexuality because it's not that easy. It's not as simple as being attracted to a person of the same or the opposite gender. It's a spectrum, a term which the internet seemingly likes to use a lot lately. Secondly, I don't have a degree. I didn't major in human sexuality, so all I can do is talk about my own perspective for now. Maybe, if I find the time, I can do a deep dive someday in the future. But keep in mind that this video is not supposed to be educational. It's mainly for people who struggle with their identity like I did, and by sharing my own experience, maybe you'll find yourself in it. So first of all, this is how I've defined it for me, or what's true for me personally. Asexuality means you don't have a sex drive at all. You don't get randomly horny, you don't feel sexual attraction to any gender or person. Hence the A in front of sexuality. If you're wondering what the opposite of asexual is, it's called homosexual. It's an umbrella term for anyone who feels sexual attraction regardless of gender. I know there are a variety of people who experience asexuality differently, and that's fine. I've heard of terms like demisexual and gray asexual. In fact, there are entire charts which show you where on the spectrum you'd fall. But as I said before, this video is about me. I'm sharing my story. Growing up, I've never heard the term asexual. I was aware of other sexualities other than heterosexuality since I had the privilege of growing up in a very open environment, so it never struck me as something to be considered weird or wrong. But even then, I never knew there was such a thing as being non-sexual, essentially. So when I realized that I felt no attraction to anyone, the inevitable happened. I thought I was broken. The media wasn't as hypersexual as it is now, which, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to be open about sex to erase the underlying connotation of shame, but at the same time, I feel like it can set very unrealistic standards at times. But it's a whole other topic. Nevertheless, sex was a very prevalent topic in media. Wanting it and having it was considered to be normal. However, I didn't feel the urge to have sex or anything related to it. So I thought, okay, maybe it'll come when I'm in a relationship. That once I had a partner, I would magically feel sexual attraction and become unstoppable. But that didn't happen. I had crushes for sure, and the desire to be in a committed, monogamous relationship. So I was or am by no means aromantic. And for those who've never heard the term, aromantic is basically the same as asexual in the sense that you don't feel romantic feelings for other people, meaning you don't have the desire to be in a relationship. Anyways, even if I had crushes or was in relationships, I never felt the need to sleep with my partners. I was very about not wanting to get intimate, which ended my relationships fairly quickly. So I decided that I wouldn't get into another relationship until I felt comfortable getting intimate with that person. Because at this point, I just thought it's inevitable if I want to be in a relationship. Oh, how wrong I was. Here's the thing, I very much love physical contact like hugging or just general closeness, but I don't like kissing or any kind of sexual touch. So that was a bit complicated and could be confusing to other people. I mean, I was also very much confused because I kept wondering, when is this horniness that everyone keeps talking about happening? I was so desperate that I even talked to my doc about it, and he came up with various outrageous reasons, like maybe I'm just too tired or too stressed, which okay, might not be that outrageous, but it just wasn't true in my case. The thing is, he probably never heard of asexuality either, and honestly, even if he did, he would be the kind of person who'd say it doesn't exist. But if it doesn't exist, then what am I? I myself was in my 20s when I learned about asexuality for the first time on, believe it or not, Tumblr. Yeah, praise the internet. After hearing about it, I did some research, read a lot about it, and watched various videos of asexual content creators, and finally felt seen and understood. It was such a huge relief. Now I finally knew I was different for sure, but not broken. Because being different ain't so bad, even though that's something that even to this day, most of our society has yet to understand. I felt very confident in my newfound identity and didn't bother hiding it. It's not like I just brought it up in conversations unprompted, but if it came up, I answered honestly. And I'm not mentioning this because I think everyone should just out themselves. People have to stay safe out there. But because of the reactions that I'd receive, and sometimes still receive. Some of the things I've heard were, you haven't had the right one yet, or I can teach you how it's done properly, or in a way that makes it feel good. Or people straight up denying my existence, which Okay. Luckily, I rarely have to explain what asexuality is. Thanks to the internet, most people are educated on the subject or at least have heard of the term. I've never been actively ostracized or bullied for that, but some people just can't fathom the concept of asexuality and think it's weird. To that, I have to say right back at you. I don't understand what it feels like to be a sexual person. And honestly, why do people so desperately want everyone to have sex? It's such a personal thing. Why do you care? People out there calling me weird for not feeling sexual attraction, caring about other people's sex life. That's what's weird. Anyways, I didn't understand other people's desire to have sex until a friend explained it to me. It's like being hungry, but for sex. So now I get the general idea, because honestly, I was convinced that wanting sex was a choice instead of an urge. And I'm just missing that urge, which also made me kind of feel all-powerful, because honestly, it saves so much time and energy, because it doesn't take up any space in my head. At least not like that. Since you're already on the topic of missing urges, other human needs I am missing most of the time are thirst and hunger. Even though they are not non-existent, like my sex drive, just very low. The urge to use the toilet and sleep, however, are very strong, almost like they're making up for everything else. And I might just be oversharing right now, but who cares? Unlike hunger and thirst, sexual attraction is something I'll never know what it feels like, and I'm okay with that. Certainly feels better than being broken. But just because I don't have the urge myself doesn't mean I'm bothered by the concept or mind seeing it in certain media, for example. And honestly, if people enjoy having sex, more power to them. I don't need it and I'm content. I don't feel like I'm missing out. Also, I think it's important to mention that just because you don't feel the urge or the attraction, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to have sex. Because asexuality is not celibacy. A celibate person chooses to abstain from sex. My caption and description is a joke. A celibate person can be a very horny guy with a very loose definition of sex. If you're truly celibate, then on God, mad respect. Like, isn't that like starving a hungry person? Except you don't need sex to survive, so... But, my brother in Christ, if you fuck someone up their ass, congrats, you had sex. If you touch or use your genitals in a gratifying way, I don't know what to tell you, but that's sex. And there's nothing shameful about it, but that also makes you not celibate. Back to my less spiteful self. I've read that people can be asexual and still enjoy it, which all plays into this spectrum topic. I said in the beginning that I currently can't give you a detailed explanation, but I can give you a rough run. There are asexuals who have the urge but don't like the act, asexuals who don't have the urge but like or don't mind the act, asexuals who only have the urge with certain people, and asexuals who don't have the urge and don't like the act. I'm sure there are more nuanced variations, but I think that covers a great deal of asexuals. For those of you wondering how a person cannot have the urge but enjoy the act, I'm not sure if it's true for everyone, but even if you don't have the urge, your body still works, meaning you'll have a physical reaction to intimate touch, which some people might enjoy and others don't. So that was my experience, how I figured out I was asexual and how I'm dealing with it now. I thought a fun way to conclude this video was to talk about asexual representation in media. Back when I learned about asexuality, the first thing I did as someone addicted to fiction was search for representation. And it was quite lacking. I was really struggling to find asexual characters back then. And the ones that I did find were just speculated to be ace or ace between the lines. But I'm not a between the lines girly. I needed black and white. I needed spelled out to me. Like, there are lists online of characters that are supposedly asexual, but it's never explicitly stated that they are. But there are also lists online of characters that do explicitly identify as ace. And honestly, during my research for the script, I found new pieces of media I've never heard before and will definitely check out, though it's still very scarce. Some of the characters that I also know are Jughead from the Archie comics, not Riverdale, that one's weird, Tuck from BoJack Horseman, one of my favorites, Isaac from Heartstopper, Cash my baby from Heartbreak High, Subata Kasumi from Subakasu, Alistair from Hazbin Hotel, and Sherlock Holmes. And don't you dare fight me on this one. I wrote my thesis on him. Someone who's not ace but would have made sense to be, and I can't believe I'm mentioning him because I literally never thought Big Bang Theory would be a part of one of my videos someday, but Sheldon. And I'm only bringing him up because introducing asexual characters and then showing them in sexual relations makes it look like ace people can just change their mind. But that's not what happens. Just because some asexuals enjoy sex doesn't mean they suddenly turn into sexual beings. I feel like this can be a bit confusing for allosexual people, which makes it bad representation in my opinion. Like, we're not there yet. People need to understand there are people who don't have the urge and don't like the act before we introduce asexual characters who subvert these expectations. You know what I mean? Though I have to say, I'm guilty of creating such a character as well. I feel a bit bad, but I'm also not mainstream media, so... In conclusion, it took me 2 decades to figure out that I'm asexual, so it's never too late to find your identity. And while I'm not completely repulsed by the idea of sex in general, I don't feel too comfortable talking about it. How about you? Have you had a similar or different experience? Feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts, even if you don't identify as asexual. If listening to random people talking about random stuff on the internet appeals to you, leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear me ramble about, leave your suggestion in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!